The city never truly slept. It only slowed down, like a predator resting one eye open. Neon signs buzzed softly in the rain, reflecting on wet streets and glass walls. Hover traffic whispered above, while far below, old streets still remembered footsteps. The night was alive and it watched everything. Inside the bar, the air was thick with mixed atmospheres. Oxygen blends for half a dozen species floated together, carefully balanced by silent machines. The lights were low, tinted purple and blue, meant to calm nerves and hide intentions. Music played softly, something slow and synthetic, designed not to offend anyone. The bar was neutral ground. That was its reputation. No violence, no deals broken inside its walls. Everyone followed the rules because everyone knew what happened when they didn't. Behind the counter, the owner watched the room with tired eyes. He had seen wars begin over drinks and end with handshakes. He had learned to read danger in small things. A twitch, a pause, a sudden silence. That silence came now. It started near the door, like someone had turned down the volume of the room by accident. Conversations faltered. A laugh died halfway through. Even the music seemed quieter, though no one touched the controls. The owner frowned and checked his console. All systems were normal, no alerts, no threats. Then his private comm buzzed once. He glanced down, annoyed. Few people had this channel. The message was short, only 2 words. "I'm outside." No name, no ID tag, just the text. His fingers hovered over the console. He didn't remember giving this channel to anyone new. The system should have rejected unknown senders. It hadn't. Before he could respond, the door opened. Rain and city light spilled inside. A figure stepped through, and the door closed behind her with a soft hiss. She was human. That alone drew attention. Humans were common enough in the galaxy, but rarely alone in places like this, and rarely unarmed in such a visible way. She wore a long dark coat, wet at the edges, simple boots, no visible weapons. Her hair was dark, tied back loosely, rain still clinging to it. Her face was calm, almost bored. She didn't hesitate. She didn't scan the room like someone afraid. She walked forward as if she already knew where she was going. The silence deepened. A group of off-world traders paused mid-conversation. A pair of mercenaries stopped playing their game. Even a towering armored being near the wall shifted slightly. Its glowing eyes narrowing. The owner felt a chill. He didn't know why. Nothing was happening. And yet, everything felt wrong. The bar's security AI noticed it too. Deep in the systems, routines began to loop. Sensors showed no weapons, no explosives, no hostile intent, and yet probability models spiked sharply. Threat estimates rose without clear cause. The AI flagged an anomaly. The woman reached the center of the room. Her footsteps were soft, but each one seemed to land heavier than it should. She took off her coat and draped it over her arm. Underneath, her clothes were plain. Dark shirt, fitted jacket, nothing flashy. She looked around then, slowly. Not nervous, not impressed, just observant. Her eyes passed over faces and lingered on a few for half a second longer than the rest. Each time, the person she looked at shifted, looked away, or suddenly found something very interesting on their table. She turned toward the bar. The owner straightened, forcing his hands to stop shaking. He had faced worse than a lone human, he told himself. This was nothing. She stopped a few steps from the counter. "Evening?" she said. Her voice was calm, clear, not loud, but everyone heard it. "Evening?" the owner replied carefully. She smiled faintly. "Busy night?" "Usually is." She leaned slightly on the counter, relaxed. "I'll have a drink." "What kind?" She named it. The owner froze. It wasn't impossible, just unlikely. The drink was old, Earth-old, rarely ordered outside human worlds, and never by accident. The ingredients weren't even on the standard menu. "I can make it," he said slowly, "but it'll take a moment." That's fine, she said. I'm not in a hurry. That was when someone laughed. The sound was harsh and loud, cutting through the tension. It came from a tall figure near the door, a syndicate enforcer, well known in this sector. He was armored, scarred, and very used to people moving out of his way. "Human," he said, stepping forward. "You picked the wrong place to stroll in like you own it." She turned to face him. She didn't look surprised or angry. She looked tired. "Step aside," she said. The enforcer snorted. "Or what?" She tilted her head slightly. "Or you miss your next appointment." He frowned. "What appointment?" She met his eyes. "The one on Karsus Station, 3 years ago. Cargo Bay 7, reactor leak." The room went still. The enforcer's breathing changed. "That's not funny." "You rerouted maintenance crews," she continued calmly. "Locked the bay. Left 6 workers inside to save your shipment." His hand twitched toward his weapon. "They were declared dead in an accident," she said. "But you were paid anyway. Credits transferred through 4 shells? Sloppy." The enforcer took a step back without realizing it. "That reactor was supposed to go critical," she added. "You were meant to die, too." His eyes widened. "But someone fixed it," she said. "Last minute. Human engineer, volunteered, didn't make it out." Silence pressed down like weight. She took a step forward. He stepped back again. "You died on Karsus," she said softly. "Everything after that was borrowed time." He swallowed hard and moved aside, clearing her path. She walked past him without another glance. The room exhaled. The owner stared at her, hands shaking as he prepared the drink. "You shouldn't have done that," he said quietly. "He's dangerous." She shrugged slightly. "Not tonight." The drink slid across the counter. She picked it up, examined it, and nodded in approval. "Thank you." She took a sip. The bar's AI escalated its alert status again. Still no weapons. Still no direct threat. But the models were screaming now. Long-term projections showed instability spreading outward from this moment, like cracks in glass. The owner leaned closer. "Who are you?" She looked at him for a long moment. "Someone who waits," she said. Around them, conversations slowly resumed, but they were quieter now. Careful. Everyone kept glancing her way. She finished her drink and set the glass down. "I'm meeting someone," she said. The owner frowned. "Who?" She smiled again, a little wider this time. "Everyone," she said. Somewhere far above the city, hidden beyond sight, something changed its orbit, and the night leaned in to listen. The room tried to return to normal, but it could not forget her. Sounds came back slowly, like a bad connection fixing itself. Glasses clinked. Someone coughed. The music rose a little, though it felt wrong now, too cheerful for the weight hanging in the air. She stayed at the bar, calm and still, like she had all the time the universe could offer. People watched her when they thought she was not looking. Some tried to read her face, others tried not to. The syndicate enforcer remained near the wall, rigid and pale under his armor. He did not sit back down. He did not leave either. He just stood there, staring at nothing, as if afraid that moving would remind fate he was still alive. The bar owner wiped the counter again, even though it was already clean. He kept his eyes low, but his thoughts raced. In all his years, he had never seen someone dismantle a threat without touching it. No shouting, no force, just words, facts. That scared him more than violence ever had. She rested one hand on the counter and slowly looked around again. This time, she was not just observing, she was measuring, like someone checking the shape of a room they planned to renovate. Across the bar, a group of traders whispered to each other. One of them, a thin alien with shimmering skin, leaned forward. "That's her," it said quietly. "Who?" Another whispered back. "The human." the one they talk about in closed channels. The second traitor scoffed. Humans don't send one person for anything important. The first shook its head. They do now. Near the back, a pair of mercenaries exchanged looks. One of them touched the side of his head, activating a private comm. Confirming presence, he murmured. Yes, lone human female. Matches description. A pause. Yes, he added. No weapons visible. That's the problem. She heard none of it. Or maybe she heard everything. It was hard to tell. Her comm vibrated softly against her wrist. She glanced at it once. No reply, no expression. She turned it off. The owner finally gathered enough courage to speak again. You said you were meeting someone. She nodded. They're already here. He looked around nervously. I don't see. You don't have to, she said. They know. As if on cue, the door opened again. This time, no one dramatic entered. Just a small group of beings in formal clothing. Diplomats, observers. The kind that tried to look harmless and failed. They paused when they saw her. One of them, tall and thin with silver markings along his neck, swallowed and stepped forward. You shouldn't be here, he said. She turned on her stool to face him. And yet, this is a neutral location, he said quickly. Your presence is disruptive. She smiled faintly. Neutral is a luxury, one you've enjoyed for a long time. He stiffened. We are not your enemies. No, she agreed. You're worse. You're comfortable. The word hit harder than an insult. She slid off the stool and stood. She was shorter than most in the room, lighter, softer looking. It did not matter. The space around her felt claimed, like gravity bent a little closer. You represent systems that benefited from a rulebook you didn't write, she said. And broke quietly when it suited you. That is an accusation, the diplomat said, without proof. She took a step closer. Would you like proof? He hesitated. Everyone did. She raised her wrist and projected a simple image into the air. No dramatic colors, no sound, just data, trade routes, resource flows, hidden tariffs, quiet blockades. Entire human colonies slowly starved of supplies while paperwork smiled and nodded. Gasps rippled through the room. This data is classified, the diplomat said sharply. It was, she corrected. Now it's complete. The bar's AI detected multiple external connection attempts. Firewalls strained. Then, one by one, they failed. Not violently, but politely, as if stepping aside for someone important. The owner's console flickered. New permissions appeared. Old restrictions vanished. What are you doing? He whispered. She did not look back. Borrowing a signal. The mercenary at the back cursed under his breath. His comm crackled. They're in the system, he said. Human signatures. Old ones. Pre-expansion code. The reply came fast and afraid. That's not possible. Tell that to the locks opening themselves, he snapped. Outside, the rain slowed. Clouds shifted unnaturally, like something massive had moved above them and the weather was struggling to catch up. The diplomat's voice shook. You can't just expose this. There will be consequences. She met his eyes. There already were. You just didn't feel them. She dismissed the projection. The air felt lighter without it, but the damage was done. Knowledge, once released, did not go back into its cage. A younger observer stepped forward, curiosity overcoming fear. Why now? They asked. Why come in person? She looked at them for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer. Because messages get ignored, she said. People get dismissed. Presence does not. She turned and began walking toward the door. Panic stirred. You can't leave, the diplomat said. Not after this. She stopped and looked back. I already did, she said. The door opened before anyone touched it. As she stepped into the night, The bar's lights flickered once. Not a failure. A salute. High above the planet, invisible to the naked eye, human ships adjusted their positions by fractions of a degree. No weapons powered up, no threats broadcast, but every major system noticed. Warnings spread through fleets and councils. Old files were reopened, forgotten encounters re-examined. Patterns emerged that no one wanted to see. Humanity had not been quiet because it was weak. It had been listening. Back inside the bar, no one spoke for a long time. The owner finally broke the silence. What happens now? No one answered. Because far away, across the dark between stars, a single message reached its destination. "Contact made," it said. "They're paying attention." The reply came instantly. "Good," it said. "Phase 2 begins." The city woke slowly, like it did every cycle, unaware that something had shifted in the dark. Morning lights replaced neon. Traffic lanes filled. People returned to routines they believed were safe. But beneath it all, systems whispered to each other in worried tones. Data moved, not loudly, not fast, just enough to be noticed by the right minds. In offices far above the streets, analysts stared at screens that did not make sense. Old files unlocked themselves. Archived records reappeared with missing parts restored. Patterns that once looked like coincidence now lined up too cleanly to ignore. Human trade losses that matched alien profit spikes. Patrol gaps that appeared just before raids on human colonies. Votes in councils that somehow always passed by one margin. Someone had drawn a map, and it was complete. The woman watched none of this directly. She moved through the city like a shadow between moments, blending into crowds that never noticed her. By the time the bar's owner finished telling his story to security officials, she was already gone from the district. She entered a quiet building with no markings and no guards. The door recognized her before she touched it. Inside, the space was simple. Bare walls, low light. A single table in the center of the room. A figure waited there. He looked human, older. Gray hair pulled back neatly. His posture was relaxed, but his eyes were sharp. He did not stand when she entered. "You made an impression," he said. She took a seat across from him. "That was the goal. You exposed more than expected." She shrugged. "They exposed themselves. I just turned on the light." He studied her for a moment. "The councils are panicking." "Good. Some want to negotiate. Too early. Some want to retaliate." She smiled slightly. "Too late." He leaned back. "You're certain?" She nodded. "They already crossed the line. They just didn't know it had been drawn." He tapped the table, and a projection appeared. Star systems, borders, trade lanes. Red marks bloomed across the map. "They're scrambling fleets," he said, "repositioning assets." "They always do that," she replied. "It makes them feel in control." "And us?" She leaned forward. "We wait." He raised an eyebrow. "That's it?" "No," she said. "We let them make the next mistake." Elsewhere, in a chamber carved from crystal and light, the Galactic Council met in emergency session. Voices overlapped, translations lagged, tempers flared. "This is a human provocation," one delegate shouted. "They released classified data," another said. "That is an act of aggression." "They were starving," a third replied quietly, "for decades." "That is irrelevant," someone snapped. "We followed procedure." "Procedure killed millions," came the answer. Screens around the chamber filled with images, human settlements, empty shelves, silent cities. Children studying by dim lights while ships full of resources passed overhead, rerouted by invisible hands. Silence fell. A senior counselor cleared their throat. "We must restore balance," a voice from the back spoke up. "By force?" "By leverage," the counselor said. "Humans are emotional. They react." A pause. "Do they?" someone asked. On the edge of known space, a patrol fleet detected something impossible. Their sensors showed empty space, but their instruments disagreed. Gravity readings fluctuated, timestamps jittered. The fleet commander frowned. Scan again. The result did not change. Then, without warning, space folded. Human ships appeared, not bursting in, not tearing reality apart, but slipping into existence as if they had always been there and everyone else had just failed to notice. They were not large. Not compared to dreadnoughts or carriers, but there were many of them, and their formation was perfect. No weapons charged, no shields flared, a single message broadcast on open channels. This lane is now monitored. That was all. The commander tried to respond. His signal did not go through. Back on the council world, alarms sounded. Reports flooded in. Trade lanes paused. Patrol routes froze. Systems that had operated freely for centuries found polite but firm limits suddenly in place. Humanity was not attacking. It was organizing. The woman stood by a window now, watching the city from above. The man joined her, hands clasped behind his back. "They're calling it a blockade," he said. She shook her head. "Blockades trap people. This just makes them stop and think." "You're confident they won't strike first?" She looked at him. "If they do, they lose everything they've been hiding behind." He nodded slowly. "And if they don't?" "Then we talk," she said, "on equal ground." Her calm buzzed again. This time she answered, "Yes." A voice came through, calm but urgent. "They found another site. Colony records wiped. Supply denial confirmed." "How many?" she asked. "Too many." She closed her eyes for a moment. Just a moment. "Add it to the ledger," she said, "and send the summary." When the channel closed, the man spoke softly. "You're carrying a lot." She opened her eyes. "So are they? They just haven't felt it yet." Days passed, then weeks. The galaxy adjusted like a body realizing a limb had been numb for too long. Trade slowed. Talks were requested. Threats were whispered. Human responses were always the same: calm, measured, patient. Delegations arrived on neutral worlds and found humans already waiting, not with demands, with records. Every meeting followed the same pattern: denial, anger, silence, acceptance. The woman attended some of them. Others she skipped. Her presence was no longer required everywhere. The message had spread. Humanity did not forget, and it did not rush. On one quiet evening, she returned to the bar. The owner recognized her instantly. His eyes widened, then softened. "Drink?" he asked. She smiled. "You remember?" "Hard to forget," he said. As she sipped, she listened to the room. The conversations were different now, careful, respectful, honest in a way they hadn't been before. A trader nearby spoke openly about fair routes. A mercenary discussed contracts he had refused. A diplomat admitted mistakes without hiding behind language. The night felt different. Outside, the stars watched. And for the first time in a long time, they watched humanity not as a problem to manage, but as a presence to respect. The galaxy did not break all at once. It bent. Trade lanes that had once flowed without thought now paused under quiet human monitoring. Ships waited longer for clearance. Captains reread rules they had ignored for years. Nothing was seized. Nothing was fired upon. Still, the effect spread faster than any war ever had. People noticed patterns. Human ships appeared only where imbalance was greatest. Routes that had drained human colonies for profit were the first to slow. Worlds that had voted against aid requests found their exports delayed by routine checks. No one could point to a law being broken. That was the worst part. The councils argued late into every cycle. "They are strangling us," one delegate insisted. "They are auditing us," another replied. "That is the same thing." "No," came the answer. "An audit ends when the books are clean." On a quiet human station near the edge of mapped space, the woman stood in a circular room filled with light. Screens curved around her, showing dozens of systems at once. Not explosions, not battles, just motion, numbers, decisions. She watched patiently. Behind her, voices spoke in low tones. Analysts, coordinators, people who had spent their lives being ignored. "They're trying to reroute supplies through proxy systems," one said. "Let them," she replied. "Track it. They're calling emergency votes. Record who calls for what." "They're scared," someone added. She shook her head. "They're uncomfortable. There's a difference." A young officer stepped closer. "Ma'am, Fleet Command reports multiple foreign task forces massing near shared borders." "Are they powering weapons?" she asked. "No." "Then they're posturing," she said. "Let them pose." The officer hesitated. "And if they cross the line?" She turned. Her expression was calm, but firm. "Then they prove our point for us." Elsewhere, a non-human world held its own emergency meeting. Leaders gathered in a chamber of stone and light, old and proud. They had once seen humans as useful labor, adaptable settlers, nothing more. That view was dying. "Our markets are stalling," one leader said. "Our partners are nervous." "We should pressure the councils," another suggested. "We did," a third replied. "They're divided." A silence followed. One voice finally spoke. "What if we talk to the humans directly?" The room reacted badly. "They're manipulative. They're emotional. They're dangerous." The speaker stood firm. "They are also precise and right." No one liked that word. On another world, far from politics, a human colony received its first unrestricted supply shipment in decades. Ships landed openly. Food, medicine, tools. Children watched from rooftops as containers were unloaded without armed guards. An older woman on the ground laughed and cried at the same time. "They remembered us," she whispered. The message traveled. Stories spread through quiet channels. Human settlements stabilizing. Infrastructure repairing itself. Populations growing instead of shrinking. The galaxy noticed. Pressure mounted. The council finally sent a formal request. Not a threat, not a demand, a request. The woman read it in silence. "They want a summit," the man beside her said. "Full attendance, neutral world." She nodded. "About time. They insist on equal representation." She smiled faintly. "They're learning." The summit world was old, shaped long before humans left their home system. Wide halls, open skies, no obvious defenses. It was meant to project trust. Human ships arrived first, not many, just enough. They took positions that were visible but not aggressive. No formations meant to intimidate, just presence. Delegations arrived one by one, some proud, some nervous, some already angry. The woman walked into the main hall alone. No armor, no escort. The room reacted instantly. Murmurs spread. Eyes followed her. She felt the weight of generations pressing down, but she did not slow. She stopped at the center. "I won't take much time," she said calmly. The translation systems carried her words without delay. "You've asked for balance," she continued. "You've asked for stability. You've asked why now." She let the silence work. "Because you built a system that worked," she said. "For you." Some shifted uncomfortably. "And when humans entered it, we were told to adapt," she said. "We did. We learned your rules, your language, your delays." A few heads lowered. "We asked for help," she said. "We were told to wait." Her voice remained steady. "So we waited," she said. "And we watched." A projection appeared above her. Not charts this time. Faces, names, human worlds, non-human worlds, lines connecting them. "This is not punishment," she said. "This is correction." A delegate stood. You're holding the galaxy hostage. She looked at them. No, we're holding it accountable. Another voice rose. What do you want? She met their gaze. Fair access, transparent trade, shared enforcement. That's control, someone snapped. She shook her head. That's cooperation. Control is what you had before. The room fell quiet again. You fear us because we didn't shout, she said. Because we didn't rush. Because we came alone when you expected fleets. She spread her hand slightly. We are not here to rule, she said. We are here to end the night you forgot we were standing in. Negotiations lasted days. Arguments were fierce. Accusations flew. But something had changed. The humans did not bend. They did not threaten. They did not overreach. They listened. When agreements were drafted, they were simple, clear, enforceable, no hidden clauses. That alone unsettled many. When it was over, no one cheered. But no one left angry either. The galaxy shifted again, this time willingly. The woman returned to the station quietly. No celebration, no speeches. She stood once more at the window, watching stars drift past. The man joined her. You did it. She shook her head. We did. They won't forget this. No, she said. They'll remember it differently. How so? She smiled just a little. They'll remember that humanity didn't need to own the night, she said. We just knew how to walk through it. Far beyond the station, fleets adjusted course. Trade resumed, borders softened, and for the first time, the galaxy moved forward without leaving humans behind. Only one part remained. The galaxy did not celebrate the change. It adjusted to it. That alone told the truth of what had happened. Trade lanes reopened, but not the way they used to be. Routes were shared openly now. Delays were explained, not hidden behind excuses. Ships still waited, but they waited knowing why. For many worlds, that knowledge was more unsettling than any blockade had been. On human colonies, life changed quietly. Supply ships arrived on schedule. Communications no longer vanished into silence. Children learned maps that included their worlds instead of marking them as footnotes. The woman visited one such colony alone. No announcement, no escort. She walked through streets that had once been dust and scaffolding. Buildings stood finished now. Power grids hummed steady. Markets were small but full. People noticed her, not because they recognized her face, but because something about her felt familiar. A child pointed at her. You're from outside, he said. She smiled and knelt. So are you. The child frowned, thinking, then smiled back. She left without anyone knowing her name. Back among the stars, resistance did not vanish. Some powers tested limits. A ship crossed a monitored lane without clearance. It was not destroyed. It was guided back gently, systems overridden with quiet precision. The message was clear. Force was unnecessary. A few leaders resigned. A few were exposed. Most adapted. That was the human way, after all. In a council archive, a historian worked late, reviewing records. He paused at a data entry marked simply, Correction Period. No wars listed, no battles recorded. Just changes in trade, policy, and enforcement. He leaned back, unsettled. History was not supposed to move like this. On a distant world, a young non-human officer studied human doctrine. There was no single book, no manifesto, just patterns, patience, memory, presence, and an understanding that power did not always announce itself. The woman returned to the city where it had begun. The same bar, the same door, the same quiet hum of mixed atmospheres. This time, no silence followed her entrance. People noticed, yes, but they did not freeze. They nodded. Some even smiled. Respect had replaced fear. The owner poured her usual drink without asking. Things are calmer, he said. For now, she replied. He hesitated. What happens when they forget again? She took a sip, then set the glass down carefully. Then someone else walks in, she said, like they own the night. He laughed softly. That still scares me. It should, she said. It keeps people honest. Outside, the city lights reflected off the clouds. Traffic moved in steady lines. Life continued. High above, human ships held position, not as guards, not as rulers, but as witnesses. They watched, they remembered. And that was enough. Far away, a young species took its first steps into space. Its leaders studied the stars with hope and fear. When they learned who monitored the lanes, they felt something unexpected, relief, because the dark was no longer empty, and humanity, once underestimated, now stood quietly within it, not claiming ownership, not demanding praise, simply present. The night belonged to no one, but humans knew how to walk through it, and everyone else had finally learned to make room.